I am not in favor of taxing anything at this point. But if there is some type of fund or tax or whatever they're going to call it, whatever's passed, it's a state issue, it's the state's decision. The Fed shouldn't have any input in it at this point. My personal position is whatever is there in that fund, 75%, at least 75% of that money should go back into the district from where it came, so those people can deal with the issues and the problems and the expansions. We're part of the state, so 25% of it can go across the state.
Do you think the public should be aware of what's going into the ground? I guess is my question.
Yes.
Requiring the drillers to reveal what fluids they're putting in.
I want to.
That's the question.
I'm not quite up to speed on that, but I want to know and I haven't heard what the drillers are saying why that shouldn't be revealed. But, pardon me?
It's proprietary.
Proprietary. Let me put it this way. I would want to know what's going in close to my well. Okay.
If elected, would you feel that it's part of your role to help support and shape how the industry develops within your district, or because you're on the federal level and you're saying that it's more of a state issue, at least the regulatory aspect of it, would you be more of a hands-off approach?
I would have an opinion about it. I would listen to people about it. I would listen to the people in the district, but I still would like to see the state handle it properly before the feds would get involved.
Do you have any financial interest in the natural gas industry?
No.
Fine, at least.
No. I live on about 5 acres. I've been asked to someone to come in and take a look, and I said no, I prefer not to do that at this point, and I just want to wait to see how things settle out. I've talked to some people. I've talked to a lot of farmers, and I live amongst a dairy farm and a beef farm, and I see what they go through. And many of the farms would have been lost by now had it not been the residuals that are getting from the gas. And it breaks my heart when I see a 55-year-old man tear up because he can't keep his farm going, and then finally he has the money where he can keep his farm or her farm or the family farm. I've spoken with some people that are opposed to it, and I've gotten down to the nitty-gritty as to why they're opposed to it. They sold their land before 5 years ago, and they should have held on to it for 5 years. Or some people sold for $50 an acre as opposed to waiting to $6,000 an acre. You know, it's all timing. And by and large, from what I am hearing, and I've traveled all 14 counties dozens and dozens of times, that people support it. Look in Bradford County, the unemployment is below 5%. But again, there are issues that arise that have to be taken care of as far as the infrastructure. We can do it, and we can do it right, and we take our time doing it. I don't want to be in a position where in the lumbering area we were stripped of lumber in Lycoming County and everybody left, or in the mining days. You know, as I said, we're very technologically smart, and we can figure these things out.
There's a concern among some circles that this industry generates a lot of money and it will try to exert its influence through campaign donations, etc. Are you being approached right now? Are you accepting donations from that industry? And I think it's an issue because we are talking about whether this becomes a federal matter or not.
I have not accepted any contributions from anybody doing anything with the drilling. No contributions.
Other questions from the group right now?
Do you, our paper this morning has results of our poll saying you're leading Kearney. What do your polls show you?
Consistent with yours. No, I'm glad that I'm in the position that I am, but the election's 3 weeks away, and I'll go by the poll on the night of November the 2nd. I feel good. I am cautiously optimistic, but I've redoubled my efforts. Instead of being out 16 hours a day, we're out about 18 or 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I have to apologize for my voice, my sinuses. I have a sinus infection, and the doctor said you need some sleep. And I said, okay, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that right away. That's poll's a snapshot.
But, and I'm going to have Doc actually got a call I'm going to make, but with some investors I have in another newspaper, and they want to know what we're doing. I have to explain what I'm doing here. We've been through this, but if you had 30 seconds or a minute or 2 minutes to say, here's what we get with Tom Marino versus Chris Carney, what is it? I mean, big government, small government, I think we get that, but what would be the marked differences of you being the congressman from this area versus Chris Carney?
I'm a conservative. I'm not a liberal that votes with Pelosi and Obama 92-93% of the time. I'll tell the people exactly how I'm going to vote and not wait to tell people that I'm not voting for the health care bill and then turn around and vote for the health care bill. I'll look them in the eye. I'll read the legislation. I won't sit in the cloakroom while debates are going on in Congress. I'll be there listening and learning about those debates. I'll put on my internet the legislation as soon as possible. I'll put on theirs as soon as I've decided how I'm going to vote, and I'll give people the opportunity to come and talk to me about it. I won't lock myself in my office. I will not send out my assistants to take the brunt, because certainly some people are going to be upset with the way I vote. I will vote what's best for the country, what's best for the district, but you still have the opportunity to come to me and vent. And when I'm not in Washington writing legislation, working on subcommittees and voting, I'll be back in the 10th Congressional District. And I love traveling. When I was U.S. Attorney and District Attorney, I was out. I was doing drug raids because I thought I needed to be out there. I would know what the environment's like. And although we'll have offices and people are welcome to come anytime, and no matter how late I have to stay there at night, I will see everybody. But more importantly, I would like to come to their functions, to their businesses, and if they trust me enough, invite me into their house so they can explain to me what they expect of me as a congressman. And I'll be truthful with them.
I know you spoke with some folks, I believe, at the Sunbury item yesterday. No, sorry.
A couple days ago.
I don't want to get there yet.
All right.
I have another topic. I want to go across to the other side of the world, Afghanistan.
Yes.
I read a quote from you. I don't think we can be done until we end it decisively.
Yes.
I'm not sure what you meant by ending that decisively. What strategy would you favor in that?
First of all, I listened to the commanders on the ground. We have no concept. I don't see how anyone sitting in Washington, other than being briefed while they're in Washington, has an idea what's going on. I would listen to the commanders and the generals on the ground, and if they make the decision on how to approach it or when to get out, then I would put a great deal of stock into that. Decisively, when we defeat the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. But I'm going to let that decision up to the experts in the field. If they say we need to stay and increase, so be it. If they say we need to get out of it because there's no end in sight, I'm listening to what those people have to say. We are there. We made a commitment. If we leave without getting the proper information from our military leaders there's going to be a genocide. We've made a commitment, right, wrong, or indifferent at this point. Someone said, where you stand in the war. That's not important at this point. The point is that we're in Afghanistan and we're in Iraq. And we've committed to these people that we're going to be there. So we better do our best to follow through with that commitment, but I'm relying on the people on the ground.
I'm going to bring it back to Sunbury now. You mentioned to them that the ads are blatant lies. This would be Chris Carney's ads, and I will address that after the election. I'm not sure the article, I don't think, specified which ads, but isn't it time to clarify misinformation before the election?
No, I wasn't talking about the misinformation. I was talking about something else. But that's not the issue. And I'm not going to get sidetracked on the negative commercials that my opponent has been running. I'm staying positive in this campaign. I will hit him on his voting record. And the public is telling me that's what they want. The polls are showing it, but more importantly, when I'm out talking to people, they're saying to me, I like your ads. I like that you're not being personal. I like that you're quoting where you stand and how you are opposite of him, and keep it up. And that's what I'm going to continue to do.
Another statement I think I read in their coverage of your visit with them was a little bit about welfare recipients And you said they have no incentives. We need to give more incentives for those. I think you're talking about multi-generational.
Yeah, to get people off welfare.
Can you tell me what you mean there by more incentives?
Well, people need help, and there are always going to be people out there that need help, and we have a responsibility as Americans to help these people. But when we're handing out the checks so they can eat and live, why can't we create a program that it's almost like work for your pay? And you know what I mean by work? Even if it means we're going to send this 16-year-old mom who has 2 children, unfortunately, because that's the way she was raised and the father's taken off. And by the way, as not only as a district attorney, but as a U.S. attorney, I went after those deadbeat dads. And why can't we implement and put some of that money to use where we're teaching these people how to help themselves, how to pull themselves up by the bootstrap, parenting programs, educational programs. Not everybody can be, not that everybody wants to be a lawyer, but not everybody wants to go to college and get a degree in accounting. But there are people who want to be plumbers, carpenters, seamstress, you name it. Instead of just handing out the checks, let's attach a little responsibility to it. Want your check? Okay, now, you're going to have to go to this parenting class, and if you need a babysitter, we'll make arrangements for that. We're wasting enough money around the rest of the world. Do you have any interest? Let's get your high school diploma down. Let's get you to speak the Queen's English and write properly. Then once that's done, do you have any ambitions? Do you want to go to college, or do you want to learn a trade? We're going to be so much further ahead. As a prosecutor, I was a tough prosecutor. You did the crime, and you're going to do the time. But also, I approach it from a proactive standpoint. Forfeiture money that we gathered went to help buy equipment, but also some of them went to educational programs. And if we start educating our children and the parents before they get to school and help them, because God, I know so many women when I was in private practice that went through a divorce, and they're stuck primarily raising the 3 kids. Yeah, there's alimony and child support, but they have to go to work. Now what do I do with my kids? And now I got to leave the 12-year-old home to watch the 8-year-old and the 4-year-old because I got to go make some money to help make the rent payment. We got to help those individuals for a certain period of time. If you're willing to do that, great. We're going to be much better off. We're always going to have a fringe that just says, I'm not doing anything and I want to collect money as good Christians or religious people and just as good human beings. In spite of themselves, we should take care of them and their children in particular.
For those voters in the district who are reading reports or hearing about over the backyard fence, things about, for instance, this Mr. Jaycee Heaney,
Yeah.
whom it is said you assisted to have his cocaine dealing conviction erased. Can you explain that situation for voters to understand?
It's not true. Okay, again, this is how desperate Carney and his people are. Going back to my record as a district attorney, I left the district attorney's office with distinction. I left the U.S. Attorney's Office with distinction and more honors than I can carry in 10 boxes. I put away drug dealers and murderers, organized crime, white-collar criminals, child pedophiles. I put away terrorists from the Middle District. My character speaks for itself, and I'll match it up against Chris Carney's any day of the week. And that's the kind of desire and ambition and ethics that I want to take to Washington. People don't want to hear about that stuff. You took the poll. If that stuff was, that was working, I would be behind in the polls. But my opponent has spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars on what is their tactic? This is the Democrats' tactic. We can't run on our Pelosi-Obama-Carney record, who voted for the health care bill and said he wasn't going to, cut seniors by $550 billion, voted for the bailout and the stimulus that the president says is even working now, and voted to expand, put that word in there, expand the TARP, but wouldn't support calling in the TARP money to reduce the deficit. Okay? So people want to know, what are you going to do to get me a job? What are you going to do to lower my taxes, and what are you going to do to cut the deficit? That's what they're concerned about. They're not concerned about anything else, and I'm staying focused on the issues. And I may not look like I know exactly what's going on according to the pictures that Mr. Carney puts up, but I've got a little moxie, I've got common sense.